The special order late this afternoon. I think it's very, very important that the American people actually know what's going on here. And as we all were home over the Christmas holidays, I know that I had a lot of different events that I had to attend. And I don't care if I spoke at a Chamber of Commerce or a Rotary, you name it. People are very, very concerned with what's going on in this chamber. And the thing that they're worried about a lot of things. They're worried about the health care that's been passed by this House. They're worried about jobs. They're worried about the cap and tax legislation. They're worried about the EPA and other mandates that are being forced down their throats. But I think it's important probably to just start off talking about the health care a little bit here. I don't think there's anybody in this chamber, and there's not one person in this country that wouldn't say that we shouldn't do something about having some meaningful debate on health care in this country. But when we're looking at it, what we've seen happening is we've seen as been mentioned by my colleagues from Texas and also from Pennsylvania, it's been a one-way street. And the American people don't care for that. They want an open debate, and they want to make sure that they know what's going on. But as we're talking about this health care, I think it's important that we also know what the people back home are saying. When I'm home, I represent the largest manufacturing district in the state of Ohio. I also represent the largest agricultural district in the state of Ohio. In 2008, I represented the 9th largest, according to the national manufacturer, the 9th largest manufacturing district in Congress. Because of what's happening in this economy, I've dropped to 15. And I don't even want to know when the next numbers come out to find out where the 5th congressional district is located in that long list. But when I go out and I go into the different factories and I go to the small businesses and I really want to know what's going on, that's the best way that I can gauge what's going on in the economy. And when I'm out there, one visit to one factory in particular really sticks with me. And a gentleman came up to me who was a press operator. He came up to me and says, I really don't understand what you guys are doing in Washington. And he said, you're all talking about health care, but if I can't put a roof over my family's head, if I can't put food on that table, why do I care about health care right now? I worry about jobs, and I worry about my job. And I think that that's something that has been lost in this. I know that one of our colleagues from the Senate recently said that maybe in the past year that the Congress here should have been really concentrating more on what? Not health care, but on job creation. Because let's just talk about these jobs and what's happening out there, not just from that individual that works on that factory floor and just an individual like everybody that that might work in a factory across this country. But also I remember walking and being in one of my small business owners' stores in the district. And after I was in the store and I'd bought some things, I was walking out and he said, "Can I talk to you for a little bit?" And we stood out. It was pretty darn cold that afternoon. But we stood outside for a good long period of time. He said, "Let me tell you something. If you all pass this health care legislation, I'm out of business." He said, "There's no way." He said, even though, your bill was over 1,000 pages long, and I know that the Senate bill was going to be several thousand pages, a couple of thousand pages long. But he said, what I've been able to get out of it, and what I've been able to figure out in the newspaper, he says, I won't be able to stay in business. And he said, look around here. Look at the people that are running the cash registers, stocking the store in here. They're all going to be without a job. And it's going to be one more store on Main Street, USA, that's going to be vacant. And we can't have that happen. And I think that what we need to do in this body is really go out and talk to these individuals. I've advocated. What we need to do is, instead of trying to do a few hearings down here, and I don't think we had enough hearings when we were talking about health care and during this debate, I think what we should have done is taken these hearings across America and wouldn't have done anything but to help the American people to, first of all, have their say in what's going on, and two, that the members of this body would be able to hear it directly from the American people. I know when I served in the Ohio legislature for 11 years, when you're representing the state of Ohio, it's not that large of a state, and we'd had, many a times we'd have all of our hearings in Columbus, but many a time we would take our hearings out across what we call the 4 quadrants of the state and hold hearings in different areas. And that's so that people could actually come to nearby where they live. They didn't have to drive down to the state capitol. But I think that's what we should have done in this whole debate in health care. Let's bring these hearings to the American people, let them have their say. That's where we're going to find out. That's where we're going to find out what they're going to have to say about this. Because, this is where they start finding these things out. When you're talking about jobs killers, the model that was being advocated by Ms. Romer, we could lose up to over 5 million jobs in this country. and the National Federation of Independent Businesses, just from the employer mandate on small businesses across this country, they're estimating 1.6 million jobs could be lost. 1.6 million jobs. That's on top of the millions of jobs we've lost since the beginning of the recession, and also, you know, there's almost 3 million jobs since the beginning of last year that have been lost just from the beginning of this administration. We can't afford to lose more jobs in this country, because where are these people going to go? You know, it's not that hard to remember back to 1982. In 1982, during that very tough recession, we can all remember, because President Carter, during his administration from 1977 up to 1981, had created, during the campaign when he was elected, what he called the misery index. And that misery index, you know, you took the unemployment rate, the inflation rate, and the interest rate. Well, what was it during his administration toward the end? You know, we saw in this country 21.5% interest rates. We saw unemployment rates at double digit, and we saw the inflation at double digit. Well, you know, where we are today, you know, when we look at having over 10% unemployment in this country, and we're talking about losing millions of more jobs because of this bill, we can't afford it. And, you know, just go down these, and what the other things that, you know, when you're just not talking to the small businesses and small factory owners out there about what's in this piece of legislation besides all these mandates, but let's just talk about the taxes in it. This was prepared by an analysis that was done by the Committee on House Ways and Means from the ranking member Dave Camp. And since the increases in 2009, the taxes, just in general, were $1.71 trillion in net taxes that were passed by this House. And just this health care bill, the estimate on this health care bill alone is they're looking at over $732.5 billion. That's billion dollars. And who's going to pay for this? They're looking at that 5.4% surtax on a lot of the small businesses that are the ones out there that job create out there, and on certain individuals out there at a certain higher level. When you're looking at $460.5 billion in taxes, when you're looking at these employer mandates at $135 billion, and you go right down the line, this is what's going to kill incentive in this country. This is what's going to kill the entrepreneur. This is what's going to kill people in saying, why do you even get up in the morning and try to go out and create jobs? Because one of the things that's lost here in Washington and in these halls of Congress is that this body does not create jobs. This body spends the wealth of this country. And, you know, the American people are really out there, and they understand it. And, you know, when you look at, as was mentioned a little bit earlier, about what's happening with the increases, when you're talking about, on the Senate side, a 40% tax on those individuals out there with a quote-unquote Cadillac plan. Well, you know, a lot of people say, oh, Cadillac, they must be rich individuals. Well, I tell you what, in the state of Ohio, we have a lot of auto plants. And when you're looking at these auto plants, a lot of these folks out there are the auto workers that are going to end up paying 40% on an individual premium, or an individual at $8,500 on their health care plan, a family plan at $23,000. And when you put these together, it's like, how are they going to pay for this as a small family? When you take all these costs that are being associated under this piece of legislation, it's unfathomable. You know, and when we're talking about unfathomable, I did read the health care bill. You know, sat down one weekend, I think it was 1,028 pages. Read it, tabbed it, underlined it, so I could really get a good understanding. You know, looking at a couple thousand pages on the Senate side. But I think what's missing in this whole debate is, you know, here is what someone gave me not too long ago, the Constitution of the United States. But, you know, as that little commercial on TV says, but wait, there's more. In this little book that's in about 10-point type, there's the Constitution, the Convention, the Congressional resolutions, all of the amendments, the Virginia Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, the Massachusetts Bill of Rights, the Articles of Confederation, the Virginia Statute of Religious Liberty, the Annapolis Convention, the Virginia or Randolph Plan, the New Jersey or Patterson Plan, the Hamilton Plan, and the Great Compromise. Right there. That is America in a nutshell. How is it that we end up today putting out thousands of pages that people can't comprehend, but America, our government, and how we were founded is right there. Put it in your pocket, you read it at any time. And I think that's what the American people are very concerned about, and I appreciate the gentleman for yielding.
Well, I thank the gentleman for pointing out the